Okay, good afternoon, dear friends. Welcome to the Monday afternoon Agad Pirka National Shir. This is our preparation shir for the Yom Tif of Chanukah Haba Aleinu L'Tova. It's coming up very soon, Wednesday night. And we're going to learn a timely subject not only for Chanukah but for current events. Let's begin with some public service announcements. I know you're very cold right now. You're freezing. It's below 32 degrees. It's like 17 degrees in New York and it feels like 4 degrees. And you're wondering, you want to go to a warmer place with the right type of environment? Well, the good news is we're having our second annual Yarchei Kala. This year it's taking place in Panama. And we have a very interesting topic that we're going to be learning in depth about the ethics of war. That was the topic of last year's Yarchei Kala. This year we're going to be speaking about amazing halachic and hashkafic inyanim, about fighting a media battle on Shabbos. Are you allowed to be mechalel Shabbos for that? Are you allowed to? What are the parameters of warfare in halacha? So you could go to our site, rabbidg.com, and you'll see the Yarchei Kala is taking place on President's Day. It's Sunday night, Monday, Tuesday, and please see there for details to join us. I know you're scrounging around last moment what you could get for Chanukah. So I'm going to give you some important suggestions. Number one, the sefer that just came out on Chinuch, V'zakeni Legadel. You could get it at our site, rabbidg.com. You could order it with free shipping and you'll have it for Chanukah. Chanukah is also the time that we learn about Rabbi Meir Baal Hanes. Many suggest it's even Rabbi Meir's yahrzeit on Rosh Chodesh Teves. And we have the Hebrew Sefer, Elokad Meir Anini, which is available in Sfarim stores on our site, rabbidg.com. You could get from artscroll.com, Rabbi Meir Baal Hanes and the Eternal Children of Hashem. And of course, the Chanukah Sefer, the Light and the Splendor, these are all available. If anybody would like to participate in upcoming projects, the Ben La'ashri, the Tzaddik of Ranana, who wrote in the introduction to his works that he will pray for those who say over his Divrei Torah and bail out of any tzara ba'olam hazeh u'ba'olam haba. Also, up ahead, the Sefer Tzipisa Liyoshua of the Chafetz Chaim, as well as translating the Haggadahs Shel Pesach into Spanish and French. These are all available if anybody would like to participate. We have an amazing topic today, not only relevant to Chanukah, and I wanted to talk about this topic. Monday, I have to decide, okay, what do I want to talk about Monday at the Agad Pirka Shir? And this was a topic that interested me, and I didn't even realize that it's directly connected to the recent fall of Syria, as you're about to see. We know the optimal time to light the menorah is we light the menorah misha chashecha, from dark, from the shkia, ad shetichla regel menashuk, until the foot vanishes from the market. Until the foot vanishes from the market. And when is that? Ve'ad kama. Amar Rabba Babar Chana, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Rabba Babar Chana, said the name Rabbi Yochanan, Ad dekalya rigla de Tarmudai. Until the foot of the Tarmudai vanishes from the market. Very interesting. Although the first original statement of the Gemara is that Ner Chanukah we light ad shetichla regel menashuk. Nevertheless, the Gemara tells us, and we should pay attention and focus on the Baal HaMemra. It's Rabba Bar Chana, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, that we light the menorah ad dekalya rigla de Tarmudai, until the foot of the Tarmudai vanishes. Who exactly are the Tarmudai? I've been living in New York for many years. My whole life I've been living in New York. And New York is a great melting pot of many nationalities. We have Asians, we have Africans, we have South Americans, we have from all regions of the world. I've never bumped into a guy on the street in the city and he said, "Hey, how are you? I'm a Tarmudai. Where do you come from?" "Yeah, me, I come from Brooklyn." Now, I never met a Tarmudai. What exactly is a Tarmudai? What country do they live in? Who are they? And what in the world do they have to do with Ner Chanukah? So Rashi says, Rigla de Tarmudai, Shem Uma, a name of a nationality, Rashi says. What do? Melakte eitzim dakim. They gather small pieces of wood. And what do they have to do with Chanukah? Umisakvin b'shuk. And they stay late in the market, ad sheholchim b'nei hashuk lebateim, until all the people in the market go home, mishechashecha, from when it becomes dark, u'mav'irim b'bateim ar, and they burn in their houses fire. Meaning, these Tarmudaim, they stay late in the market until people go home when it's dark, and they need to burn firewood. And when they need wood, they go out and they buy from the Tarmudaim. So basically, they really have to stick around the shuk quite a while, because during the rest of the day, people are buying shoelaces and apples and oranges and bananas and pears and plums and other sundry items. But then they don't know whether they need firewood or not, because during the day it's a little bit warmer. They go home, it gets dark, it gets cold. They're going to start cooking, they're going to start warming up the home, and they realize they're out of firewood, so they have to go out to the market and buy the firewood, and the Tarmudim would sell the firewood. So they were the last ones out in the market. According to Rashi, they were the last ones out in the market, and therefore we could light the menorah as long as the Tarmudim are still outside in the market. They sell the final item that someone would need of all their purchases throughout the day. That is the opinion of Rashi. Comes the Rif, and the Rif, interestingly, disagrees with Rashi. Says the Rif, Ad shetichla regel min hashuk ad kama, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said, Ad dekalya rigla de Tarmudai perush, eitzim yeduim etzlam. There's a specific kind of wood. There's a specific kind of twig. V'nikrayim tarmuda. The twig is called tarmuda. Umisakvin, and they stay there ad achar shkia sachama, until after the shkia. Kamay chatzi shah ad shemagian lebatem. According to the Rif, they are not, it is not the name of a nationality, but rather Tarmudai is a kind of wood. So let's say the name of the profession Tarmudai is someone who sells the wood called Tarmud. So we have a big machlokes Rashi and the Rif. What does it mean ad dekalya rigla de Tarmudai? Rashi says it's the name of a nationality, that they're the final ones who are out in the market. The Rif says no, it's not the name of a nationality, it's the name of an occupation. Just like, what do you call somebody who works on the docks? You call him a doctor. So too, somebody who works with the wood of Tarmud is called Tarmudai. By the way, that was a joke, but I didn't hear you laugh properly. I don't know, you seem to be very serious, even though Chanukah is coming up. What could I do? But that's the machlokes Rashi and the Rif. Rashi says it's the name of a nationality. The Rif says it's the name of an occupation. Comes the Gra, and the Gra says something quite interesting. The Gra says that he quotes the Rif, that it's the name of a wood that's called Tarmod, and those who bring them are called Tarmudai. However, says the Rif, that Rabbeinu HaGoin Zal, HaKesef Mishnah, the Kesef Mishnah teaches that the correct interpretation is that the country that they come from is called Tarmudai, and they sit in the marketplace and they stay there later than anyone else. So if I were to ask you, what kind of machlokes is this? You would say it's some kind of academic machlokes. What does Tarmudai mean? Does Tarmudai refer to a nationality, like Rashi says, or is it referred to an occupation, like the Rif says? And for some odd reason, the Gra chimes in here. However, it would seem that the Gra chimes in here because it makes a nafkamina lahalacha, whether it's the name of a nationality or whether it's an occupation. What kind of nafkamina would it make? A very interesting question. Friends, we know that there's a mitzvah in Chanukah of persume nisa, of publicizing the miracle. Is this important aspect of the performance of the mitzvah only to publicize the miracle to Jews, or is it even to publicize the mitzvah to Gentiles? You ever think about that? We light the menorah at the window. Who are we trying to publicize the miracle to? The Jewish people or the nations of the world? Certainly when it comes to Purim, and we know that one of the elements of laning the Megillah is Persume Nisa, it would not seem that there's any inyan of publicizing the miracle to the Gentiles. I am not aware of any shul in the world that invites Gentiles to the shul so that they could hear us bang by Haman, or so that they could hear La Yehudim Haisayra V'Simcha V'Sasayin. We don't lane the Megillah for Gentiles. Or let's say on Sukkot, where we want to be mefarsem the miracle Anani HaKavod. We don't do so to Gentiles. There's even limitations of whether we can invite a Gentile to a Yom Tov Suda. But is there a concept of Persume Nisa when it comes to Hadlakas Ner Chanukah? So in the Sefer Taimud Dikra, number 26 on the sheet, look where my icon is. And this is in the new printing of the Taimud Dikra, because in my printing I did not have this. Reb Chaim Kanievsky says, I was asked, if you live in a place where there are no Jews, should you light the menorah for Goyim? He says, if you look in Rashi, on Daf Chaf Aleph Amud Beis, on the words Adekalia, Rigla, the Tarmudai, Rashi learns who are the Tarmudim. They are the ones who stay the latest in the marketplace, because after people go home and they check if they have firewood, and they don't, they go out to the market to buy wood. So the Tarmudim are the last people in the marketplace. That implies that you could light until then, because as long as there'll be Tarmudaim in the marketplace, they will see you light the menorah and you're Mekayim the mitzvah Persume Nisa. Says Reb Chaim, Rashi seems to hold that there's Persume Nisa to Goyim. However, the Rif learns that Tarmudaim was not a nationality, but rather it's an occupation. Well, if it's an occupation, then you could be sure the Jews had the occupation. If it's a job, you could be sure it's a Yiddish Geschäft. You could be sure that if it was a job, then Jews did the job. So according to the Rif, there is no proof that there is Persume Nisa to Goyim. So even though at first it looks like the Machloikis Rashi and the Rif is an academic Machloikis, it's not an academic Machloikis. It's a Machloikis in Halacha. Is there Persume Nisa to Goyim? Reb Chaim Kanievsky even brings the Medrash in Tehillim, Perek Mem Daled, Leman tesaper be'oznei bincha, to give shavach lamakoim, that his children are mesaper his kavod ben hagoyim, like it says shiru lashem shir chadash sapru vagoyim kavoidoi bechol ha'amim nifla oisav. It is honorable to God when Klal Yisrael speaks about his wonders among the goyim. What's surprising is that the Mishnah Berurah in the Sha'ar Tzion, Siman Taf Reish Ayin Beis Ois Yud Zayin, says that by goyim there's no Persume Nisa. Meaning if somebody lives all by themselves in a non-Jewish neighborhood, do they make a bracha on the menorah? You know, there's a shaila. Let's say you come home at 2 a.m. and everyone in the house is sleeping. Could you make a bracha on the menorah? Anybody know? What do you do?
Yeah, you do.
So the Sha'ar Tzion brings down in Siman Taf Reish Ayin Beis Siv Katan Yud Zayin, if everyone is sleeping, you should wake up 2 or 3 of them. And if it's impossible to wake them up, you still light with a bracha. Why? Because what? Just because no one is seeing, but we know that if you live in a place where nobody else lives, you make a bracha. Also, if you live among goyim, you make a bracha. So the question is, what do you mean you make a bracha if you live among goyim? You make a bracha because you're being mefarsim to goyim. The answer is no. Clearly, the Sha'ar Tzion holds that there is no Persume Nisa to goyim. And since there's no Persume Nisa to goyim, that proves nobody has to see it. And therefore, even if no one in your home will see it, it should be okay. So the Mishnah Berurah seems to say there's no concept of Persume Nisa to Goyim, but Reb Chaim Kanievsky says this seems to be the point of contention between Rashi and the Rif. Why did the Rif argue and say Tarmudaim are not a name of a nationality, but rather it's a name of an occupation? Because the Rif apparently holds that if it was the name of a nationality, what kind of Persume Nisa is it to spread it to Gentiles? By the way, Rebbe Yashiv Paskin, that the simple understanding of the Tarmudai ad de tichle Rigla the Tarmudai, that implies that there is Persume Nisa even to Goyim. Okay, so let's come back to the ranch. We have this interesting halacha that the Ner Chanukah is dependent on this perhaps nationality of Tarmudai, that we light the menorah ad the tichla ragla the Tarmudai. The Maharal explains, why do we have to light the menorah this year? Because the light needs to be in the beginning of the night, because the darkness causes us to light the ner. Why the foot of the Tarmudai? They sell wood, and even though they're the last, it should just say Ad shetichla regel min hashuk. Why does it have to say ragla de Tarmudai? Because they sell wood to make a fire. As long as they're in the market, that's the time that people are buying wood to illuminate. So it's the time of lighting. But as soon as they stop selling wood to make a fire, it is no longer the right time to make the fire. Meaning the Maharal says, it's not just coincidental that their occupation is they sell firewood. So long as there are merchants selling firewood, it is the correct time to be igniting a fire. But the moment that firewood stops being sold, it is no longer the right time to light a fire. But let's try to understand in a deeper sense, who are these Tarmudim? What do we know about them? What historical role do they have? And do they have any connection to our time? So there's Gemara in Nazir and Daf Mem Zayin. The Gemara says, Amru loy Masa b'Miriam ha-Tarmudis. There's a story about Miriam ha-Tarmudis, shenizruk aleh echad min hadamim, that it was thrown on her one of the bloods for a carbon of Nazirus. Ubo va'amru la albita shi mesukenes, v'halcha umatza shamesa. Turned out her daughter died. V'amru chachamim tavi shar karbanos utzatahar. She could bring her other karbanos. So we know there was a Nazira who is a Tarmudis. Where is Tarmod? Where is this region? Where would it be? Unbelievable. We have a pasuk in Malachim. The pasuk says, "Vayiven Shloimei es Gazer." Shloimei built Gazer ve'es Beis Choron Tachdon ve'es Baalas ve'es Tamar. Tamar, and that's Ksiv Tamar, and it's read Tadmar. But if you look in Divrei Hayamim, Vayiven es Tadmar. Where is it? It's in a desert. Okay, there are a lot of deserts. Which desert? The Sahara Desert, the Sinai Desert. There are a lot of deserts in the world. Comes Rashi. Rashi points out, it says, Ksiv es Tamar, Vitadmar Karinan, and we're going to learn in Yevamais, we don't accept Gerim from Tarmudim. And in Bereshis Rabbah, it says they help the enemies of the Jewish people. And because they rebelled against us, and they turned on us, therefore in Malachim we call them Tamar, a lashon of Temura. They turned on us. They should have done kindness to us, because Shloimeh built a big city of Tadmar for them. But because of Shloimeh, here in Divrei Hayamim it says Tadmar, a very chashuv city, l'chvoid Shloimeh HaMelech. It's not kavod for Shloimeh to say Tamar. So therefore it says Shlomo built Tadmar. But in Malachim we call it Tamar to show that they turned on us. So one thing we know is they should have had Hakaras HaTov to Shloimeh. Shloimeh built them a very eminent city, and they turned on us and they joined our enemies. What else do we know about the Tarmudim? We have a Gemara in Yevamis on Daf Tes Zayin Amud Aleph, going on to Tes Zayin Amud Beis. You ready? It's always a good time to learn Yevamis, especially right before Chanukah. Why not? Says the Holy Gemara, Rabbi Yochanan, the Savaya, the Amri Tarvayo, Rabbi Yochanan and Sarvaya, they both say, what do they both say? They say, Ein Mekablen Gerin min ha-Tarmudim. We don't accept Gerim from Tarmudim. This is the Gemara in Yevamos, Daf Tezayin, Amud Aleph. They both say we do not accept converts from the Tarmudites. The Gemara asks me, Rabbi Yehuda say this, that we can't accept converts from the Tarmudites. Vatan, we learned in the Mishnah, Kol haksama ba min harekem ta'irim. All stains that come from rekem are tahar. Rabbi Yehuda metame mneshem gerim v'taim. Rabbi Yehuda says they're tameh because they're really converts who are making an error, but they're Jewish, so therefore they're kesamim, their stains are tameh. But if you bring a stain, a garment, from Gentiles, it's tahar. V'havinon ba, and we asked, what do you mean kapasik v'tani? But the Mishnah says, unqualified, that if you bring a stain from among the Gentiles, even from Tarmod, that they are tahar, that means Tarmodim are considered goyim. That you could accept gerim from Tarmod. Meaning, there's a question, could you accept gerim from Tarmod? Why would you not be able to accept gerim from Tarmod? Because they're Jewish, you know? There's one advantage a Gentile has over a Jew. You know what the advantage a Gentile has over a Jew? A Jew is not able to convert. Did you know that? People want to know what's better, a Jew or a Gentile? Well, a Gentile has a very big advantage. Gentiles are able to convert. Jews have that limitation. They're not able to convert to Judaism. So that's the stira in Rabbi Yochanan. The stira is, can Tarmudim convert? So Gemara says it's actually a machloikes amoraim, what Rabbi Yochanan really held. And then the Gemara says, Mi Tarmod my time aloi. Why can people from Tarmod not convert? Here, look where my icon is in the Gemara. Mi Tarmod my time aloi. Pligiba Rabbi Yochanan v'Sabaya. It's machloikes Rabbi Yochanan and Sabaya. One said they can't convert because of the slaves of Solomon. You know, the slaves of Solomon, the Canaanite slaves of Solomon, because of their wealth, were able to get Jewish wives, and their children lived in Tarmod, and they considered themselves like their fathers who were Gentiles, but in reality they were Jewish. And this opinion holds. So Rabbi Yochanan said, because these Tarmodim were the slaves of Solomon who married Jewish women because of their prestige, their children are mamzerim, and therefore we cannot accept converts from them. And one said they can't be accepted because of the daughters of Yerushalayim. We'll see what that means. According to the ones who say it's because of the slaves of Solomon, they hold Oved Kechavim, or an Eved who lives with a Jewish woman, the Vlad is a mamzer. But according to the one that it's because of the girls of Yerushalayim, the daughters of Yerushalayim, Mahi, the Gemara says, what exactly is the concern? So the Gemara says, Pligi ba Rabbi Yosef Rabbanas Machlekes Rabbi Yosef and the Rabbanan. The Tarvayu Mishmei de Rabba Bar Chana. And both of them said this in the name of Rabba Bar Chana. Now, to me, this is really amazing. Because when the Gemara gives us the shir of Hadlakas Ner Chanukah, the Gemara says, Rabba Bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan until we destroy the foot of the Tarmudai. As if Rabba Bar Chana and Rabbi Yochanan were the experts on the Tarmudim. And here in the Gemara in Yevamos, when the Gemara is discussing why we can't accept Gerim from Tarmudai, who are the two main speakers about the issue? Rabba Bar Chana, explaining Rabbi Yochanan. So clearly, these two personages were the experts of the Tarmudai. What would the reason be because of the daughters of Yerushalayim? So it's a machloikes Rabbi Yosef and the Rabbanan. They both say in the name of Rabba Bar Chana. One says, Tresar Alfi Gavri Vishita Alfi Kashtai. One says there were 12,000 footmen and 6,000 archers. V'chadamar, one says Tresar Alfi Gavri, 12,000 men total, of which Uminao Shita Alfi Kashtai, 6,000 archers. B'shash shenichnasu adicham lahechal, when the Gentiles entered the Hechal, Hakol nifnu ala kazav, they all turned to take the silver and the gold. Vehem and the Tarmudoim nifnu al benois Yushalayim. They violated the Jewish women. Shenemar Nashim mitziyayninu bisulais be'arei Yehuda. Amazing, very interesting, very interesting. So what do we know about the Tarmudoim? They are the epitome of illegitimate offspring. They either were the descendants of Solomon's slaves who lived with Jewish women, or they were the descendants of people who violated Jewish women at the time of the Churban Beis HaMikdash. In fact, we have a Medrash in Bereshis Rabbah on the pasuk V'yirash zaracha es shar soina'av. Rav says, this is Tarmod. Fortunate is someone who sees the downfall of Tarmod. Why? They joined forces with the Babylonians who destroyed the first temple, and they joined forces with the Romans who destroyed the second temple. Rav Yudin and Rabbi Chanina once says, in the Churban Bayis Rishon they appointed 80,000 archers, and in the Churban Bayis Sheni another 8,000 archers. So while the Babylonians only destroyed the first and the Romans only destroyed the second, the Tarmudim destroyed both of them. But let's take this even further. Because the Gemara says, look in Yavamas Yudzainam and Aleph, Yasser Rav Yosef Achoy Rav Kahana, Rav Yosef sitting behind Rav Kahana, V'Yasser Rav Kahana Kamed Rav Yehuda, V'Yasser V'Ka'amar, and Rav Kahana was sitting before Rav Yehuda, and he was sitting and he said, Asidin Yisrael da'avdi yoima tava ki charvi Tarmod. The Jewish people are destined to make a Yom Tiv when Tarmod is destroyed. Why? So Gemara asks, V'hacharav Tarmod is destroyed. No, hahi Tarmod Abai. Tarmod was destroyed. Tarmod was never destroyed. Rav Ashi Amar Hainu Tarmod Hainu Tarmod. It's the same thing. Ikefulehu de Mechbal. But it would rejuvenate itself. Charav Mehai Gisa, Oisa Mehai Gisa. If it was destroyed on one side, it would be built on the other side, and vice versa. Vichar Mehai Gisa, Oisa Mehai Gisa. Yasser Rav Hamnuna Kamedu Ula. Rav Hamnuna was once sitting in front of Ula. V'kahavi b'shmaita, and he was asking on the teaching. Amar Ula said, Ma gavra, ma gavra. What a guy, what a guy. What a man, what a man. Meaning, how great you are. Ilav de harpanya maseh. Ula said, if not for the fact that you live in Harpanya, you would be a great guy. What a guy you are, if not for the fact that you come from Harpanya. So Ichsif, Rav Hamnuna became embarrassed. Amar Le, Ula realized that he embarrassed him. He says, Kesef Golgolta Lechiyavis. Who do you pay taxes to? Amar Le, no, I pay Lefum Naharaya. Lefum Nahara, to Pum Nahara, not to Harpanya. Amar Le, Imkain, Mi Pum Naraat. If so, you are from Pum Nara, you're not from Harpanya. The Gemara says, my Harpanya, what's wrong exactly with Harpanya? So Reb Zera said, everyone turns there. All illegitimate descendants, all people of illegitimate lineage go and live in Harpanya. Amar Rava said, V'yamuka misha'al. Harpanya is more invidious than the abyss, than Gehenna. As hot as it is in Gehenna, by the way, Gehenna is very hot. It's not like a microwave. It's not like a regular oven. It's even hotter than self-clean cycle. And as bad as it is in Gehenna, it's even worse to be in Harpanya, because it's just a collection of people of sour lineage. Like it says, Miyad she'oil eftem mimavas egalem. About Gehenna it says, I will redeem you from there. But the disqualifications of Harpanya have no remedy. Now, the Gemara says, what kind of... What?
Yes.
What kind of illegitimate people live in Harpanya? Says Gemara. Psule de Harpanya mishum psule de mishain. The disqualified people of Harpanya, they come from those who are disqualified in Meishan. They are near each other, and Meshan was notorious for mamzerim. The Meshan mishum psulei Tarmod. The disqualified ones in Meshan were from the disqualified ones of Tarmod. And the disqualified ones of Tarmod came from Solomon's slaves. Basically, and the Gemara says a maxim, the big kav and the small kav, all kinds of disqualified people, they go down to the abyss, and from there to Tarmod, and from Tarmod to Meshan, and from Meshan to Arpanya. Basically, the source of all illegitimate lineage stems from Tarmod. Tarmod, these guys who are selling the wood in the nighttime, who we're waiting for to light the menorah, they are the source of all illegitimate progeny. So here it is. The Talmudim have the distinction of A, being the only nation that contributed to the destruction of Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni. And number 2, they are the source of all disqualified lineage in the world. Tati, is it too late to light? Yingala, open the window, check if you see bad mamzerim on the street. If they're still there, we could still light the menorah. Abba, can we light the menorah? Yeah, look outside if you see any terrorists who are part of destroying the first and second Beis HaMikdash. If they're still there, we could still light the menorah. I mean, why are they given this distinction? They're basically the scum sheba scum. They're the nation. They're worse than the Babylonians. They're worse than the Romans. They contribute to the destruction of both Bayis Rishon and Bayis Sheni. They have the most impure lineage of anyone in history. They make mamzerim look like they're meyuchastek. You know? And that's why we light the menorah until they're still hanging around. If you look in the Medrash Eicha, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ashrei mi shara b'mapalta shel Tarmod. Fortunate is he who saw the downfall of Tarmod. Lama shahaisa shutefes b'shtei churbanos. They were partners in both churbanos. Rabbi Yudin Amar b'churban rishon hamida shmoinim elef kashtin uv'sheni hamida arba elef kashtin. They supplied warriors for the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash and the second Beis HaMikdash. Marv Rabbeisai, does anybody know where is Tarmod today? In Syria. It's in Syria. It's the Palmyra region of Syria. You know that? You know that in 2016 in March, the first area that Assad captured, Palmyra. And then the first area that ISIS destroyed in 2017, or some say 2016 in December, was Palmyra. And you know the Israelis bombed it November 20th, a few weeks ago. They killed 36, they wounded about 50. And then US-backed Syrian forces conquered Palmyra less than 2 weeks ago, on December 12th. And these are the guys who we're waiting for when we light the menorah. As long as these guys are still in the shuk, we will light the menorah. What in the world do they have to do with Ner Chanukah? Why are they connected to this important mitzvah? What is this all about? It's very interesting. There's a Medrash Zuta. The Medrash Zuta says, Harei Malchei Mizrach Meskansin LeTarmod. The kings of the east gather in Tarmod. The Yisrael Ba'im Roimi, Israel comes from Rome, Makrivim L'Yushalayim Shivas Yamim, and they offer in Jerusalem for 7 days. VaKadosh Baruch Hu Mashiv HaRuach, God makes the wind blow. VaOmer L'Yisrael Chazru LeTarmod, Keneged Malchei HaMizrach, return to Tarmod against the kings of the east. Umalchei Hagoyim Oimrim, and the kings of the Gentiles say, Noisin L'Yisrael Rishus Livnois Beis HaMikdash, V'heim Ba'im L'Sarfai. Then the Gentiles come to burn it. VaKadosh Baruch Hu Yotzei v'nilcham imahem l'kayim ashenemar v'yatza Hashem v'nilcham agayim hahem V'hamashiach baloi lotzor uletzaidan uletarmod uleviri lekayim ashenemra edoim umayav mishlach yadam uvnei amoin mishmatam. That somehow in the end of days, the kings of the world will gather there, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu will allow us to rebuild the Beis HaMikdash, whereupon the nations of the world will try to attack and God will destroy them. So there seems to be a connection between the area of Tarmod and the ultimate rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash. Another factor to throw into the mix here is the Gemara in Ksubas on Daf Nun Aleph Amud Beis that tells us that when a woman is captured by a king, then she's like a woman who is held captive. But if she was captured by bandits, she's not like a captive. And the Gemara says, well, it depends what kind of bandits capture her. If she's captured by Achashverosh or Ben Netzar. So there is this guy Ben Netzar who we may presume that he didn't just capture a woman as a hostage, but he violated her. Who exactly is this Ben Netzar? The Yushalmi says, Solik Rav Ami Rav Shmuel Mifaisa alave Amr Lohain Zanve Malchusa Yalafla Brechain Avelachain Nisin Meashikin Bey, where the Yushalmi tells us about the dangerous character of this personality called Ben Netzar. So what exactly is the meaning of these people? What else do we know about them? And why are they connected to the Yom Tif of Chanukah? Here's another important piece of information that's worthwhile to throw into the mix. We have the Sefer, the Travels of Benjamin of Tudela, who made it to Syria and made it to Palmyra. And here you have V'gam Tadmar. Here Benjamin of Tudela tells us where this is. He says Tadmar is Palmyra, Bamidbar. It's like in a desert, an oasis. Asher bana shloimai, kimai binyan avonim gedolos. V'ha'ir Tadmar mukefes chayma, it's surrounded by a wall. V'hi bamidbar rechoika min hayishav, it's very far from civilization. Mivatelas haniskeres arbas yamim. U'ka'alafim Yehudim b'Tadmar giborei Muhammad. You have about 1,000 Jews in Tadmar who are victorious of war, who are warriors, and they would fight with Bnei Edom and with the Arabs. Shem Tachzim Shas Noraldin. Basically, Benjamin of Tudela reveals to us that this city of Tadmar is in what is today the historic region of Palmyra in Syria that we mentioned, that Assad took it over, and then it was destroyed by ISIS, and then it was recently bombed by the IDF, and then American-backed Syrian troops recently conquered it. What is its connection to Chanukah? So I just want to share with you some interesting thoughts. Number one, there's another piece of information about the Tarmudai from a Gemara in Shabbos on Lamed Aleph. We know that the convert, we know that the bet that these two gentlemen had, who could get Hillel angry on Erev Shabbos. So one of them came banging on the door, Mi kan Hillel, Mi kan Hillel. So Hillel put on his towel, and he put on his cloak, and he said, yes, what can I help you with? And the very important shaila that they had to ask is, why are the eyes of the Talmudim terutais? Terutais. Different explanations on what terutais means. Some say it means slanted, and others say it means clouded. And the reason Hillel responded is because they live in sandy areas, and therefore their eyes are clouded. The Avodas Yisrael, the Machon Maggid says that if we see that their eyes are clouded from seeing, that means their eyes are clouded from seeing the panemius and the internal understanding of something. that means they're from a very low world, that their eyes are clouded from seeing and appreciating Kedusha, because they live among the sand. In other words, they live in a world of sand. Sand connotes little particles that are separate and have no connection to each other, and they are disparate. So therefore, on Chanukah, where the main function of Chanukah is to illuminate the eyes to those who walk in darkness, in the world of darkness, the purpose of Chanukah is, we could add, to gain the midah of hoid, like we learned last Monday, to be able to see the inner splendor of something. So on Chanukah, we will light the menorah as long as there's still people out there in the marketplace whose eyes are clouded, like the Tarmudai, who live in a world of cloudiness, who are not able to see the ziv and the splendor of the way the world operates. We will light the menorah as long as the Tarmudim are still in the market. So that's one element, Avodas Yisrael says, of why the shear of Halakas Ner Chanukah is dependent on Ad de Tichla Ragla de Tarmudai. The Tarmudaim are the same Tarmudaim as in the Gemara in Shabbos, Daf Lamed Aleph, people who had unclear vision, and we will light that menorah until we illuminate even those of unclear vision like the Tarmudaim. But on a deeper level, we mentioned the Tarmudaim were the ones responsible both for the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash and the second Beis HaMikdash. Which means that even though there have been 4 Galusim in our history, and each one had a separate power, but it seems like the Tarmudim join with all of them. And we've advanced an idea over the years, when we light the menorah, and we sing the Pismain Ma'is Sur, and we sing about Bavel, and we sing about Paras, and we sing about Yavan, and we sing about Edom. Why do we sing about the redemption from all the Golosim on Chanukah? Chanukah was the victory specifically over the Yavanim, but Chanukah is the inauguration of the Yemais HaMashiach. Rabbi Meir writes in the Kad HaKemach, Chanukah is a lashon of inaugurating the third Beis HaMikdash. It's a beginning of celebrating the Geula of the Jewish people from all the Golosim. And therefore we are going to light the menorah until the Tarmudim are vanished from the Shuk, because the Tarmudim, so to speak, encompass all of our Churban and all of our Golos. They were part of the Churban Bayis Rishon. They're part of the Churban Bayis Sheni. And we will continue to light the menorah until we see the downfall of the Tarmudim, who they contributed to all Jewish disaster and destruction. That's another connection between Ad de Tichla Ragla de Tarmudai Shabashuk. The Shem Shmuel adds that the Tarmudim represent the lowest of the low, the most exterior and outcast of all the forces of Tumah. Pechisas shebechisas. Ragla is also the lowest part of the body. The chitzonim shebechitzonim. And the ability of Ner Chanukah to illuminate even till the foot and the lowest level of the Tarmudim, which means that the Kedusha of Ner Chanukah has the ability to brighten and illuminate even the darkest and most contaminated elements of Tumah. And then finally, there's another very important nekuda over here. Chanukah is a celebration of the return of the Shekhinah. We know that there was a miracle in the menorah that happened for many hundreds of years, that the Ner Ma'aravi never went out. And the Gemara in Shabbos says, what did the fact that the Ner Ma'aravi never went out, what did that signify? Eidos Hu Yisrael Sha'ashchina Shayra Imayim. It was testimony that the Shekhinah is with us. But already in the time of Shimon HaTzadik, the Ner Ma'aravi began to go out, which indicated that maybe the Shekhinah was not with us anymore. The menorah was eidos to the Jewish people that the Shekhinah was with us. So the miracle of Chanukah was the miracle of the return of the Shekhinah to Klal Yisrael. That is why the Haftorah of Shabbos Chanukah is Rani v'simchi b'asiyayin ki hineniva V'shachanti b'soichech ne'om Hashem v'novu goyim rabim el Hashem b'yoyim ahu. So the Haftorah emphasizes the great theme of Chanukah, and that is the return of the Shekhinah to the Jewish people. By the way, that's why Chanukah was paralleled after the Yom Tov of Sukkot. Chanukah is 8 days like Sukkot, because just like Sukkot was the return of the Ananei HaKavod, the return of the Shekhinah, so too Chanukah is the return of the Shekhinah. The Shekhinah, for it to reside among the Jewish people, there's a particular quality that we need, and that is pure lineage. You know, there's a Tosfos in Masechta Taanis. Tosfos is going on the Gemara that a deal was made that anyone who knocks off, Kalev made a deal, anyone who knocks off the city of Kiryat Sefer, he will give Achsa, his daughter, as a wife. So the Gemara says, maybe the person will be a cripple. So the Gemara says, well, it was a good thing it was Asniel ben Kenaz. And Tosfos brings that this city of Kiryat Sefer really represented the 3,000 halachos that were forgotten in the times of Moshe Rabbeinu. Whoever reminds us of those halachos, they will be zoicha to marry this woman. So the Marsha asks, well, why is the Gemara only worried that maybe it will be a cripple, or maybe it will be a handicapped person, maybe it will be a mamzer? And the Marsha says it can't be a mamzer, because in order to remember those 3,000 halachos, you need to have the Shekhinah dwell on you. And the Shekhinah doesn't dwell on somebody of illegitimate lineage. This is a very important principle. Although in general we emphasize wisdom and character above lineage, but there's an element of the divine presence of Hashem that only dwells on the pure of lineage. That's why when the nations of the world said to Hashem, why don't you give us the Torah? Hashem says, bring me Sefer Yechuseim, bring me your book of lineage. Chanukah is the time that we're celebrating the return of the Shekhinah. Therefore, we have to light the Ner Menorah until the Tarmudai, who are the epitome and the source of all impure lineage in the world, until they are vanished min hashuk, until we uproot them from the core. Because in order for the Shekhinah to come back and reside among the Jewish people, an essential ingredient is the purity of lineage of the Jewish people. And that is another element of ad de tichla ragla de Tarmudai. So it is certainly of note that in these weeks preceding Chanukah, we saw the downfall of Syria, and we saw the bombing of Palmyra, and we saw the conquering of Palmyra, which the Gemara says, Ashrei kol mi shuraya b'mapalta shel Tarmod. Fortunate is he who sees the downfall of Tarmod. Rabbi Yochanan says, Ashrei mi shara b'mapalta shel Tarmod. The Gemara in Yevamos tells us an amazing teaching. Ein mekablen gerim min ha-Tarmudim. And Asidin Yisrael da'avdi yoyma tava ki charvi Tarmod. And that's what we saw in our time with our own eyes. The destruction of Tarmod. Look at the state of all the historical sites of Palmyra today. You know what happened there? When Bashar conquered it, Russia made a military base on all the historical sites. And then ISIS came and destroyed the whole thing. So we saw with our own eyes. We're able to fulfill Ashrei mi sharaya b'mapalta shel Tarmod. Or Rabbi Yochanan said, Asidin Yisrael da'avdi yoyma tava ki charvi Tarmod. And therefore, when it comes to Ner Chanukah, we light the Ner Chanukah ad shetichla regel min hashuk. Rabba Bar Chana, who is the great expert of the Tarmudim, send the name of Rabbi Yochanan, another great expert of the Tarmudim, ad de kalya rigla de Tarmudai, until the foot of the Tarmudai vanishes. Kain yoivdu kol oyevecha Hashem. Rabbi, have a great day. Bracha v'atzlacha. We'll see everyone. You could join us this week. The Wednesday night shir is going to be Tuesday night. Tuesday night. Okay? Hatzlacha Rab, everyone. Have a great day. Kol tov, kol tov. Sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Chanukah Sameach.